Good afternoon on what is a warm, mild, but slightly overcast day. I'm back in the reading nook with some parcels. I'll get to the first one, which is this, come from Lightning Source. So this is something I've got off the drive-through rpg.com. So, and you can tell by the strength of the adhesive used on the packaging, and let's not forget my nice hot cup of tea, which today is breakfast tea. It's biscuit tea. Other types of tea are available. And what I've got here is Unbreakable Volume 1. Here we go. So it's 5E compatible. It has some kind of strange monster on the front. You're not quite sure what it is, but cross through the Dragon's Gate, feed the Kra Nahom River, face drowned souls in Zongji, stage a heist to get Tre Dang Na. Again, apologies for the pronunciation. Break the Lin Biang monk's curse, listen to the nanny goat, search for lost Rothy, gamble in the den of broken tiles, deliver melons to hell. I almost said deliver melons to Helen, but no, deliver melons to hell. Plan a reunion of the Zodiac. Unbreakable is a collection 10 of adventures for 5th edition. All the adventures were written and illustrated by Asian creators, inspired by the lore of our cultures, countries and experiences. So, and that's what interested me, because there has been, it's interesting that sort of like the hobby has looked to sort of like a wider experience, so looked beyond the limits of the European fantasy that it's basically specifically Dungeons & Dragons that it heavily draws upon, and again the American fantasy does the same thing, although it has its own mythology as well, but a lot of it is drawing upon European mythology. But there are plenty of other authors and players outside of the European and North American playing experience. So we're seeing a bit of sort of like basically a drive, a creative drive from those players and authors. Now, for example, the Thousand Islands series of fanzines is one such drive. They're systemless, but they will easily fit into your Dungeons & Dragons kind of game if you basically provide the stats. Again, at the same time, they're systemless, and they actually fit in a science fiction game. I mean, I can imagine some of those being dropped into a Doctor Who role-playing game. And recently I reviewed a scenario from an Indian collective from Mumbai, and that was interesting. Again, essentially reading and playing scenarios from a different cultural point of view is interesting, and it adds to, you know, the choices available, and it's far more, to be honest, it's better than that someone else from that culture is writing those adventures, rather than necessarily us from the North European, sort of basically from the European or North American gaming scene, and doing it and potentially committing social faux pas or appropriating the culture, and generally want to avoid that. But so what you've got is an anthology of adventures, all from Asian writers. Open up. Now, basically, we have basically here we have the title page. We've got a list of all the contributors there. And here we go. What's interesting is basically there's a forward, an introduction, or forward mission statement introduction, and a guide to how to use this book. So there's a lot of, basically it really is kind of setting what setting up for what the book is about and why they've done it. So, mission statement: the Unbreakable book is the first release in a larger Unbreakable anthology series. The primary goal is to establish a platform for Asian creators and those who identify as Asian. Okay, so it's not specifically, limited to the continent of Asia. Okay, within the tabletop roleplay community, we're in the opportunity to work and collaborate together to publish as an own voices project. The second goal for the Unbreakable series is to produce tabletop roleplaying content that includes and represents the diverse Asian cultures, not just the standard East Asian archetypes. Lastly, the creative leaders of the Unbreakable series hope to inspire and nurture creators to grow and gain their own space and footing within the RPG industry. And that's all very worthwhile aims. Having different voices in the hobby is nothing less than good. And the thing is, in coming to look at this, it will be interesting to see what they create, and to see essentially how different they see things, whereas we see different things. Because obviously I'm a white Northern European male, so my biases will be influenced by the culture and the cliches. Essentially, that have been that essentially is their culture interpreted by us, and often inaccurate and often involving cliches. So it's great to see essentially them coming together and giving themselves space to create their own content that we can explore, basically shorn of those cliches. So essentially, okay, so essentially, and it points out that in the heyday of role-playing games, there was a particular draw to Asian settings, but they were mostly, if not entirely, written by non-Asian writers. Understandably, these new publishing companies were the pioneers of our beloved games and hobbies. Still, many of those creators do not possess the cultural knowledge or background to adopt these elements, and will cause more harm and disrespect than good. Despite those shortcomings, decades later, the desire to have these voices heard and able to tell their stories has grown substantially. Asian creators want their personal stories told. So that's essentially where they're coming from, and great. And whether or not I will actually ever get to play these or run these is a different matter. I will look forward to actually reading and reviewing this anthology, because it's different and it's interesting and it's from a different point of view. So we open with Through the Dragon's Gate by Ethan Yen. Content: warnings, water and storms, basically multiply colour, and I presume that's going to carry on like that throughout. And we've got basically a synopsis with the recent disappearance of the local magistrate on Liaoshang Mountain in the village crops destroyed by a magical storm. Villagers have come to believe that they are upset the dragon who resides at the peak of the mountain, creating an atmosphere of fear and anger. Amid this environment, a talking carp arrives in search of heroes willing to resolve the conflict by locating the missing magistrate and brokering peace with the dragon. To do so, they will have to ascend the mountain and reach the top of the great Liaoshang Falls, where the dragon calls home. An adventure for first to fourth level characters of running 2 hours. So that's nice and short, but essentially it's and it also has what I like. First thing I noted is you basically start playing, and we have a pronunciation guide. So where are we? Yeah, there. So I've been pronouncing Liaoshang Mountains. It should be Liaoshang Mountains. I apologise, but I think that's great. I'm sorry, but I do my best. This is basically, we've got what 3 chapters. Basically, it's 26 pages in 3 chapters, and what I like at the end of it, you've got a conclusion, and comes to the end. Rewards for the player characters, and then of course adventures, notes, and acknowledgements. I really like that. That's great. That gives you, there's the inspiration. And I hope they do that for each of these. And then we've got an appendix basically with the stats, nice and easy. And we go on to feeding the river, and it's doing the same thing. This adventure, basically, the Kandahom is a river that feeds and provided transportation for the surrounding area for generations. Now it has become polluted, the water levels have lowered, even the monsoon waters disappear once they fall. Despite efforts, the river remains polluted. It's up to the adventurers to uncover the mystery and revitalise the river, or who or what is preventing the river to turn back into its natural state. Basically, an adventure for party of four fourth level adventurers running about 4 hours and so on. Again, decent enough artwork. Actually, quite a nice map. I like that. That's you know, not too detailed, but again, lots of flavour and feel to it. Character. Again, that's quite short. And again, you have the acknowledgements at the end. I'm just going to do this over and over, followed by the appendix, and we have basically drowned souls of the hidden stream. And I can see there's a lot of first three scenarios involve, you know, water, storms, drowning, and it's there's a lot of a high degree of sort of like the natural to it as well as the supernatural. And again, it's a bit of just a nice little bit of subtle artwork just in there. And I think basically this came off Drive-Thru RPG. It's nicely done. The artwork is well chosen. It's nicely laid out. It just on a glance through, it needs another degree of editing and localization just to make it pass a little easier. But what I've read, and I'm saying that as a professional editor, and basically a lot of what I do is localization for basically into English. But it's readable enough, and you can understand it. The English is don't mistake me. I'm not saying the English is bad. It reads just a little bit off. It doesn't read as natural as it would to a native speaker. You know, that's just a professional opinion. If I was editing this, let's look at next. Bamboo in the dark. Content warnings: theft and commodification of cultural artifacts, abuse of authority. As I say, if you come on this, it comes off the drive-thrurpg.com, and it's the second volume on their way, again, it's a reasonable price. And basically, it was about £30 or so, $30, something like that. I got it I believe I probably got it in a sale. Okay, again, nice map. I'm basically for a river. City, lots of bridges, possibly some of the artwork is a little bit perhaps modern with the use of the glass there. Feels a bit too, feels like it's sort of like, you know, come out of a restaurant or something. But nevertheless, nice bit of nice clear cartography there, and I like the fact they've done that with the illustration of the building as well. That's a nice touch. So this would, I mean, the thing is, obviously you've got this. What you would run it with, I don't necessarily know offhand as such. You could adapt it easily to the basically the Asian role-playing game of your choice, whether that's, I mean, you know, there are multiple ones you could use it, whether that is Bushido or Legend of the Five Rings, or even Monkey from D101 Games. If you could do the adaptation. In terms of Dungeons and Dragons, I'm not sure I mean, there may well be something on the DM's Guild for playing in Asian settings, and you would possibly use that. But players could easily adapt to the setting if they wanted to, and then perhaps there is basically room for the publishers of Unbreakable to do something like that, to provide some kind of notes and so on adapting the character classes in the core role play, in the core player's handbook, and turning them into something else. So yeah, it looks like, I mean, obviously Hearts of Flame in Lambiang is looks to be a longer scenario. You've got I mean, the chapters are smaller, but you do have a lot more monsters. And then we've got Lost Children by Kat Kruger. Mood of this counter is dark horror. Some players may feel uncomfortable with the descriptions of child neglect and murder at the hands of flesh-eating demons. Should this be a case, do not elaborate on the gory details. Consider the makeup of your players and adjust accordingly. I like that piece of artwork. It's nice and bright, and yes, I don't want that eating my child. Or any child, to be honest. I'm not volunteering anyone's child to be eaten by them. And again, Lost Grasp, content warning, storm, water, drowning, poverty, tyranny, shape-shifting, mild body horror. Yeah, quite a lot of storms and water in this, and it brings in this sort of like the natural element. So, 10 different adventures, nice anthology, nicely produced and presented. I also like the fact that the text is large and easy to read. You know, possibly they could have made the book shorter that way, but again, it's really easy to read off the pages, or off the page, I should say. And a cargo of melons for the courts of the dead. Warnings, death, torture, family estrangement. An adventure is played as a one-shot, integrated into a side mission to a campaign for high-level characters. It's adventures based off a chapter and Journey to the West, which again you might think, brilliant, I can use that to run this with a monkey, or something like that. So there's just to show you. And that's playing off the whole idea of such in Chinese mythology that hell exists as a bureaucracy on the other side. To basically a mirror of the traditional Chinese bureaucracy. So lots, 10 adventures in here, all of them interesting, all of them different, and just lots of flavour and detail, which I think you can bring to the table. And it ends with, you've got the artist bios, again, nice touch, and editors, and then art attributions, basically sources. Again, great, all good content. So that's Unbreakable Volume 1. I believe Volume 2 is on its way. I will add this to the reviews list at some point. Do that, basically. That will be interesting to look at in depth. In the meantime, if you have enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook, please do hit the like button down below. If you've got any comments and feedback, then I do appreciate you making those, and I do take the time to read them. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me with a handful of parcels and basically 10 minutes of your time, where you basically watch me talking about a book which I've never seen before, and my reactions and thoughts to it on a first opening or unboxing, all accompanied of course with a nice hot cup of tea. Please do hit that subscribe button. In the meantime, thanks again for watching. I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.